Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. This is Shyam here, taking up the Hindu news analysis for 16th April 2026. Now, before I start, please do let me know that I'm audible as well as visible for all of you. Thanks a lot. Let's begin the discussion. In today's session, I've taken a total of 10 articles. 9 of them are from the daily edition of Hindu newspaper, and one article so that you are aware of all the current affairs happening around you, which is relevant for the civil services examination. One article I've taken on POSH, that is the editorial from the Business Line newspaper. This has been done in order to ensure that the discussion will be comprehensive. If you're liking the initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you're yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Before I start, here is a very important announcement. Right now, the Unacademy IAS courses are available at a discounted price of 19,999. Those who want to enroll, please check out the details. Once you enroll, you will get access to the live as well as recorded lectures. You will get access to the PTS as well as EMTS test series, reading material, you can current affairs program, etc. Do not miss out the opportunity. Check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description. Now let me begin the discussion. First important article, lot of articles today in the context of the constitutional amendment bill that has been introduced by the government, women reservation bill, etc. So let's try and understand the important points, because I'm pretty sure all of you have heard a lot about delimitation, women reservation, etc. So first important article, what are the implications of increasing the size of Lok Sabha? Like we have discussed yesterday as well as day before yesterday, the government of India has put forward a proposal to amend the Constitution of India. Certain provisions or the articles will be amended provided the bill is passed in the parliament. After the amendment, the size of the Lok Sabha will be increased. The size will increase to a total of 850 seats. From the current maximum of 550, the size will be extended to 850. Now, there are merits in the argument that there should be increase in the size of the number of seats in Lok Sabha. For example, the favorable arguments are the population of India has increased. The size has been blocked for multiple decades now. So the population of India has increased. Each of the MP is representing a larger population. Very difficult to listen to the pleas of, or let's say, listen to the arguments or the problems of large number of population in the constituency, etc. So it makes sense that we have to have better representation to ensure that the voice of the people is heard, etc. We should have more number of representatives for every a lakh people, 2 lakh people, etc. So that is basically the argument citing which we are expanding the size of Lok Sabha. But at the same point of time, the writer simply raises certain important questions or the implications once we increase the size of Lok Sabha to 850. What are the implications? Let's look at it one by one. The first one, as usual, the argument is once the size of the Lok Sabha is increased, if the same proportion is not maintained, then there will be some of the states which will be losing out in terms of the percentage of the seats out of the total seats, and there will be certain number of states which will earn more number of seats as again as a percentage of total seats. Which state will get more, which states will get less, you do not worry about it as of now. The argument is some states will end up losing the percentage and some states will get more in terms of percentage. Although there is one more article that has been published in today's newspaper itself, where the government officials are stating that the government will give clarity regarding this, and they are ensuring, the government will ensure that the increase in the number of seats in all the states will be by 50%. That is one article. Please don't worry. I'll go to the article later. So first important implication is the government has proposed to take the census population of 2011 and use the population to increase the number of constituencies or the number of seats. That is basically the delimitation exercise. First implication. Second implication, the government has proposed to make an amendment in the Article 81. Until now, the practice was, according to the article, once the population census is conducted, automatically the delimitation exercise will also be held. With the amendment that has been proposed by the government, this particular exercise shall not become mandatory after every population census. This is the second implication. Everybody is okay with this. Third, the size of Lok Sabha is being increased. But there is absolutely no proposal right now to change the size of Rajya Sabha. What is the implication here? Right now we have maximum population, maximum number I'm talking about. In Lok Sabha 550, in Rajya Sabha 250. Now let's say there is presidential election. There are certain types of elections where both the members of Rajya Sabha as well as Lok Sabha will vote. Now if size of one of the houses increases and the size of the other house doesn't change, don't you think the weightage that the second house will have, weightage in the sense importance of every MP's vote in case of Rajya Sabha now will be reduced? Same in case of, let's say, joint sitting. Even in case of joint sitting, with the larger Lok Sabha strength, obviously the government of the day will have majority in the house, that is in the Lok Sabha. Now let's say there is certain disagreement between both of the houses. There is a joint sitting that will take place. During the joint sitting, again, because the number of, right, let's say the MPs of the government in Lok Sabha will have very high numbers, automatically they will have an upper hand even during the joint sittings. And moreover, according to the proposal now, according to the bill provision, whenever the government of India wants to conduct, let's say, a delimitation exercise, going forward, they do not require a special majority. The proposal is to basically make a change it to a simple majority. And obviously, the government in the parliament or the government, the political party which has formed the government, obviously in the Lok Sabha will have the majority, will have the support of majority numbers. It will become very easy for it to get all of these particular things done through the Lok Sabha now. That is one more implication. The size of Council of Ministers will also increase. Why? Listen to me very carefully. Until certain constitutional amendment, I'm talking about one of the constitutional amendments in the year 2003. This constitutional amendment imposed a restriction on what should be the maximum size of Council of Ministers. It restricted the Council of Ministers numbers to 15% of the total strength of Lok Sabha. 15%, 15% of Lok Sabha, including the Prime Minister, by the way. Now, if the size of Lok Sabha is going to increase, automatically it would also mean the number of ministers within the Council of Ministers, the number of ministers will also increase. This is one more implication. And finally, one more implication or the concern that has been raised by the writer in the article is the fact that right now, whenever questions are to be heard or questions are to be raised, let's say in zero hour, there are too many requests or there are too many, right, let's say requests raised by the members of the parliament. And because there is a limited time, generally there is a lottery system that is used to find out who are the members whose questions will be addressed during the zero hour. Now, if the number of members in the Lok Sabha increase and the number of days of operations or number of days in which Lok Sabha is operating, if it is not changed, if the working hours are not changed, the same number of days are still continued in terms of conducting sessions, etc., then automatically the time that will be available for each of the members of parliament, especially from other political parties who want to raise questions, who want to raise issues of public importance, etc., that will also come down. Right? So these are some of the implications associated with the government of India's proposal to increase the size of Lok Sabha. Everybody is okay with the discussion? I don't want to keep on discussing the same thing, so I focused on only the important things which have been raised, right, fresh in the article, by the way. Now, in addition to this particular, right, let's say the editorial page or open editorial page, there is one more article which has been published in the Hindu newspaper associated with delimitation. Like I said earlier, the government officials have clarified that the government has no intention to change the proportion of the seats which would be allocated even after the increase in the total number of seats to 850. Regarding this, it is expected that the Ministry of Home Affairs, that is the Minister for Home Affairs, Mr. Shah, would be giving a clarification associated with this on the floor of the parliament, and the total number of seats will be increasing, and the same proportion, that is a 50% proportion, that will be the number of seats increased in all of the states. Let's wait and see what will be the clarification given by the government regarding this on the floor of the parliament. In fact, the government officials who have given the statements here, they are arguing that this idea that some of the states will be having lesser percentage of the seats, some states will get more percentage of the seats, is based on misreading. I repeat, and again, this is a statement given by the government officials. It is based on misreading of the provisions under the proposed bill. So let's wait and see what will be the clarification provided by the government. The session associated with this, the session is going to start today. Now, based on this, here is an MCQ. Please solve the MCQ and tell me the answer very quickly. Please solve the MCQ and tell me the answer very quickly. Consider the following statements. The 91st Amendment has imposed a 15% limit on size of Council of Ministers. Yes, this particular statement is correct. Second one, the above is applicable for center as well as states. Is the statement correct? The above is applicable, that is 15% limit is applicable for center as well as the states. Yes, right, this is also correct. Third one, third statement, the 15% limit is including the Prime Minister as well at the center. Yes. For the states, it will be Chief Minister, including Chief Minister. For the center, it will be including the Prime Minister. But one more very important point to make a note of here. When I say 15% limit is applicable for states as well, if it is a smaller state, then the minimum number of ministers within the Council of Ministers has to be 12. Please remember, for states, if it is a very small state, in such cases, the minimum number of ministers within the Council of Ministers has to be 12. These are important points. So, based on the solution, all the three statements are correct. Right option is option C. A lot of you have given the option C. I think one or two people have given different options. Please be very careful regarding these kind of questions. Now, let's move forward. Next article. Loan apps function in a regulatory dark area. Multiple people have committed suicides in the state of Kerala. And this is not just associated with problem in the state of Kerala. In the past also, there have been multiple instances where people have been pressurized into committing suicides because of digital loans. Digital loans. And the specific area that I'm talking about is the Digital Lending App, DLA. Everybody is okay? Digital Lending App, DLA. What is this concept? Concept is simple. Let's say there are certain people who are facing certain financial issues. Now, in order to come out of this particular financial issues, they will, let's say, go to a bank. But the bank will demand a lot of documentation. The bank might simply say, your CIBIL score is very less, so we will not be able to give you a loan. Or else they are in a hurry, they are facing an emergency, bank is willing to give the loan, but it will take a lot of time. So what they generally end up doing is, because they need money in emergency, or nobody is willing to provide the loans, etc., they will basically borrow this money from digital lending apps. They will borrow this basically from the digital lending apps. The problem is Reserve Bank of India already has imposed multiple restrictions, multiple measures or the guidelines have been implemented in order to ensure there is no illegal digital lending app. What do I mean by illegal digital lending app? There will be too many apps which will offer to give you quick loans. Quick loans. Within minutes, they will give you loan. And they'll simply say you don't have to undergo a lot of documentation work as well. Very simply give me 1, 2 and 3, or basically give me your Aadhaar, and within minutes I will transfer the money into your account. This kind of a ease is offered by lot of these online lending apps. Reserve Bank of India is worried because these kind of apps, one, these are not regulated. Listen to me carefully. These are not regulated. That is first one. Second one, the fact that when you take a loan from these kind of, let's say, lending apps, they will ask you to give access through the app. When you take a loan, they will ask you to give access to your contact numbers. They will ask you to give access to your photos, that is in the smartphone, etc. And the moment you give access, until now nothing will go wrong. But the moment you start defaulting on the repayment, you delay making the repayment to these particular lenders, etc., they will start harassing you. There have been multiple instances which are recorded where even the relatives of the borrower have been called up and they have been harassed. These borrowers have been named and shamed in the public, etc. And in a lot of these cases, even the photos have been taken, they have been morphed, right? Morphing has been done, and right, shaming, uploading of these particular photos somewhere, or threatening to upload, etc. These kind of activities have been done by these digital lending apps. In order to contain this menace of digital lending apps, which is most of the cases charging very high rate of interest, exorbitant rate of interest, there is no transparency in their business activity. What do I mean by transparency here? RBI guideline simply says you take a loan from a bank. You take a loan from, let's say, a bank, or even for that matter, NBFC. There has to be a statement that has to be given to you, which is called as KFS, Key Fact Statement. Remember the term, Key Fact Statement. In the Key Fact Statement, all the details associated with the loan will have to be mentioned. For example, rate of interest. Is there any processing charges, closure charges, etc., etc. And the RBI mandates that whatever is the charges mentioned in the KFS, above that, the NBFC or the bank is not allowed to charge anything else. Is my point clear? Above and right beyond that, nothing else shall be charged on the borrower. If somebody is charging you, you have a recourse, you can file a complaint against them. But the problem in case of these DLAs is, these are not regulated. They will not give you the KFS. You take a loan from them, they'll keep on adding charges after charges, and the rate of interest is very, very high. All of this put together will lead to harassment of the borrower. That's a precise reason the Reserve Bank of India has created a system. They have created a repository or a white listing mechanism. White listing mechanism. That is essentially, if you want to borrow using a digital lending app, whether this DLA is legit or not, whether this DLA is coming under the RBI regulations or not, you can check it by checking out the list from the RBI website. RBI has created a white listing mechanism like this, a depository of all of these which are regulated, which are coming under the RBI regulation has been created. But lot of times what happens is, the borrowers are not sufficiently financially literate. I'll repeat the statement. The borrowers do not have sufficient financial literacy. For example, in the multiple states, the penetration of smartphones has increased. The penetration of internet has increased. Digital literacy is there, but they may not be sufficiently financially literate. They do not understand the implications. They do not understand the terms and conditions when they borrow online like this. So there are certain measures that are supposed to be undertaken by the Government of India as well as Reserve Bank of India. What is the way forward? One, the apps which are categorized under financial, that is basically, let's say, I've created an app, it's a digital lending app, and many of the times, even though the app will be banned, I will create one more app with a different name and I'll upload it. The problem is, when I will have to list it in the store, that is in the app store, I will have to categorize what kind of an app it is. Let's say it is categorized under financial app. Then whether the borrower wants to give you the consent or wants to give you the access to photos, contacts, etc., doesn't matter. This kind of access should not be given to any app which is categorized as financial app. Simple, everybody is okay. This is the first condition. Second condition, right now there are measures, there are guidelines implemented by RBI. Like I said, whitelisting mechanism has been implemented. RBI can basically ask MITI, Ministry of Electronics, to issue a directive to block a particular app, right, under the Information Technology Act, etc. But the problem is a lot of these particular apps, like I said, are basically set up or basically will be uploaded using VPN or will be operating using VPN. Their servers are located outside India. Even if you block them, they will basically sell the same services, provide same services by changing the logo, by changing the name of the app, etc. So there is a need for a consolidated framework, a law in India, which will have a penalty provision such as jailing, imposing financial penalties, etc., especially in the context of illegal digital lending apps. Third one, strengthen measures for the customers to check whitelisted app. Like I said, you can check whether the app is whitelisted or not. But please be frank. Please be frank here. How many of you will go to the RBI website, search for the tab, and then start checking? Be very frank, by the way. There is a mechanism, like I said, you can check whether this is whitelisted, legitimate app or illegitimate app. But a lot of us, including me, by the way, a lot of times what we do is the government has put in certain measure or a checks and balance in the system. We will not follow that because it is too cumbersome. It is, right, it is very difficult for me. I don't know how to do that, etc. So is there any solution to that? One of the recommendation is when I'm downloading the app, within this particular setup, can there be a mechanism to show whether this particular app is whitelisted or not whitelisted by RBI? Right, so that is basically one recommendation. And finally, better disclosure standards regarding, right, providing loans, borrowing, right, or let's say the repayment collection methodologies, etc. Disclosure standards associated with that must be strengthened in India. So these are some of the recommendations associated with the loan app menace. Done? Everybody is okay? Can we move on now? Please solve the MCQ and tell me the answer very quickly. Consider the following statements. The digital lending app directory has been published by Ministry of Electronics. The orders to block the digital lending apps are issued by the Ministry of Electronics under the Information Technology Act 2000. How many of the two statements or which of the two statements are correct? Let me know quickly. Aman Singh says option B. Others? Being human, option D. B, option D. Okay, let's start. The DLA directory has been published by RBI, not Minister of Electronics, RBI. RBI is the authority. The orders to block the digital lending apps are issued by the Minister of Electronics under the Information Technology Act of 2000. This statement is true. Under this, specifically they use the section 69A. Section 69A is used to issue the blocking orders. So second statement is correct. First one is incorrect. Right option for the question here is option B. Let me move forward. Next article, women reservation. Women's reservation and delimitation should be de-linked. Right? What is the argument here? Again, I'm not going into the details of the bills or the provisions of the women reservation bill, etc., etc. I know all of you have heard of it multiple times. In fact, you are more experts now. So what is the argument here? And by the way, this article, before I start, is critical of the government policy right now. It is critical. Okay. So argument is simple. The government of India now already has passed the women reservation bill back in the year 2023. Now they want to implement it. They want to bring it into force. But the only concern is the government of India has connected the women's reservation bill implementation part of it with the delimitation exercise. They have connected it with the delimitation exercise. The critical argument is when the women reservation bill was earlier passed by the Rajya Sabha in the year 2010, there was no conditionality attached with regards to implementation. I'll repeat the statement. When this particular women reservation bill was passed by Rajya Sabha back in the year 2010, there was no condition attached with implementation of the bill. But the government of India, when they introduced the bill, that is the women's reservation bill, later once they introduced it, and which was passed by the government, that had a provision. I'll focus on that particular provision now. That had a particular provision. The provision, Article 334A. Please observe this, Article 334A. This particular provision read that if the 33% reservation was to be implemented, it is contingent upon the delimitation exercise conducted after the publication of first census taken following the Act's commencement. Everybody is okay? Simple reading of it would mean 33% reservation can be only implemented after census is done and after the delimitation is conducted. The government of India now has proposed to amend even this provision. They want to amend and convert this into a simple way. That is, they want to change the condition now, and the new article will require only that population census, latest population census is not needed. Just delimitation exercise is needed. Simple. They want to conduct the delimitation exercise, and after that, now they want to implement the 33% reservation bill. Everybody is okay with this particular condition? So what is the criticism? The criticism is very simple. When the original bill was passed by Rajya Sabha, this kind of a condition was not part of the bill. But later, the new version of women's reservation bill was introduced. The name was also changed, Hindi name was given, and in that particular bill, there was this particular condition that the delimitation and the population census must be conducted. The government of India now wants to conduct the delimitation exercise based on the 2011 population census. Based on 2011 population census. And these are the criticisms against that. First one, the government of India simply has connected the women's reservation implementation as well as the delimitation exercise. The argument is, let's disconnect both of them, right? Let's disconnect both of them. Women's reservation is a different issue. Delimitation is a different issue. The government has simply connected both of them, and this has created a lot of confusion. This might hurt the implementation of the bill, etc. So, recommendation in this article is very simple. The government, instead of amending the Article 334A, why not simply remove it? Is it okay? Right? Let's change the provision. Let's change the provision altogether, which mandates that there has to be a delimitation or a population census. Let's remove that. Let's implement the women's reservation, which could have been done by the government immediately after it was passed in 2023, which could have come into force during the 2024 Lok Sabha elections itself. This is one point. Second very important point that you need to consider when you talk about the linking between reservation, women's reservation, as well as the delimitation exercise is the fact that if you use the population of 2011 and not the population census data from 2026, there will be certain problem with representation. What is the problem I'm talking about? Whenever the census is conducted, you also get the data associated with how much percentage of the population is SC and how much percentage of the population is ST. If you use the 2011 population, I repeat, if you use the 2011 census population in determining all of this, there will be a problem. You will not get the correct data representing percentage of SC as well as ST population. That is the second issue. Third issue is the delimitation exercise is very contentious in India. It is riddled with a lot of criticism and it is not done right in a faster manner. It takes a lot of time. For example, the earlier delimitation, which was highly politically sensitive issue, the last delimitation exercise took around 6 years. It took around 6 years for us to complete that particular exercise. Now you want to basically again connect women reservation with, right, let's say the delimitation exercise. What is the guarantee that now the delimitation will be done very soon? It is very sensitive matter. It will take lot of time. Even by 2029, what if the exercise is not conducted as it happened earlier, when it took 6 years? And after this particular delimitation exercise, it was conducted in two states, Assam as well as Jammu and Kashmir. It was conducted in two states, Assam and J&K. There also there were a lot of criticisms against the process that was followed by the Delimitation Commission. So these are some of the criticisms against the government of India's proposal to basically under which they have proposed list of bills, the constitutional amendment bills, etc. And they want to implement the women's reservation, right, starting from the next cycle. Done? Everybody is okay? Everybody is okay. Can we move forward now? Okay, great. Let's go forward. I've taken one more article from the Business Line newspaper which talks about implementation of POSH Act. Right? Implementation of POSH Act. Is the TCS harassment case tip of the iceberg? Let's focus on the concepts which are needed for UPSC exams here. Right? All of us have heard of what has happened in case of the Nashik TCS case. Multiple FIRs have been filed. There are allegations of certain misconduct, right, by certain number of employees in this particular company. But more importantly, now the questions have arisen regarding the effective implementation of POSH in India. Is the implementation of the provisions of the POSH, have they been effective in nature? Because when you look at the data, there are a lot of doubts regarding how effective, right, has the company made policies regarding the implementation of POSH. In fact, this concept of a POSH Act or the POSH guidelines came into existence because of the Vishaka guidelines. Vishaka guidelines. The Supreme Court of India issued Vishaka guidelines under which basically it talked about the illegality of sexual misconduct and stated that it is against the certain types of fundamental rights. And until unless the government would bring into force certain law, right, the Supreme Court simply said these guidelines will be into force. So government following that implemented Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act. And under that, certain guidelines are mandatory. The provisions are there. These are mandatory for the companies. Right? Be it an NGO, be it a public sector company, private sector company. If you have more than 10 employees, less than 10 employees, doesn't matter. The guidelines are mandatory to be followed by all the establishments under Prevention of Sexual Harassment Act. Now, what are the important provisions under this? The Act mandates that every company should have an internal complaints committee. Every company should have an internal complaints committee, which will comprise of 3 employees and 1 external member. The companies are also expected to display the names as well as the contact numbers of all of these, the committee members, so that if any kind of an any employee faces the certain kinds of, let's say, misbehavior from their colleague, from their superior, etc., they know whom to approach. They know how to approach them. They know, when to file the complaint, etc. And not just this. Under the POSH, every company is supposed to conduct certain, let's say, policy guidelines or let's say certain exercises where the information regarding the POSH has to be conveyed to everybody in the company. Do's and don'ts, what can be construed as a sexual misconduct, what is and what is not sexual misconduct, that kind of information, in addition to, if at all there is a sexual misconduct, how to approach the members, in what way they can approach the members. All of this information is supposed to be conveyed to the employees of the company. All these are mandatory, by the way. All these are mandatory for all the companies in India. The issue right now is the, let's say, the allegation that certain complaints were raised for multiple years by multiple workers of the TCS company, that is at Nashik, let's say, office. And the manager, to oversee, the HR manager, has not taken appropriate action. Appropriate in the sense, the POSH guideline simply says, if any complaint regarding the sexual misconduct or misbehavior is reported, if a complaint is raised, the manager has to simply transfer the complaint to the internal complaints committee. I hope you understand this. The manager has to simply transfer this complaint to the internal complaints committee. That message or that complaint has to be transferred. And once the complaint is transferred, there is a particular process to be followed. There is a particular process. Please have a look at this. Don't write it down. Once the class is over, you can download the PPT and use the PPT. Right? So basically a particular process has to be followed. Right? Wherein the complaint, acceptance of the complaint is acknowledged, where the hearings will happen, right? The respondent's reply is taken, right? The complainant's reply is taken, the person on whom the allegations have been made, their side is also heard, documentation, proof, etc. is collected, and the report has to be submitted. And all of this has to be done within 90 days. All of this has to be done within 90 days. The problem in this particular case is that the allegations or the FIR states that these kind of complaints have been filed for multiple years with the HR. The complaints have been going to the HR for multiple years and the HR has not taken the right approach. Right? Let's not worry about the legality or let's say the course that the courts will take, but these are the certain very important points. Regular awareness programs among employees regarding the POSH rules is another mandate under this. As per the POSH Act, if a complaint is received by the Human Resources Department, it must immediately be transferred to the internal committee. Right? So these are certain very important points that you need to make a note. Now going forward, what should be done? We have realized that there are companies in India, there are offices in India where these kind of complaints are filed, but appropriate action is not being taken. And the problem becomes much more dangerous because if let's say the female employee has filed a complaint against a superior and appropriate action if it is not taken, then obviously there will be repercussion. The female employee will be worried about the safety, security in the office. They will be worried about going to the office itself. And basically what might happen is there can be retaliation against this particular employee. All the other office employees will gang up and start harassing this particular employee, etc. So there is a need for the government of India to implement certain policy now. What should be the policy? There is a need for the Ministry of Children and Family Welfare to carry out an audit of the POSH compliance. If this can happen in a particular company which is very known for its ethical practices, known to be one of the largest companies and within an industry which is considered to be one of the workhorses of Indian economy, which employs, mind you, this sector employs more than 20 lakh women. So obviously now there is a need to review whether the companies are appropriately implementing the measures or the guidelines under POSH or not. Auditing has to be conducted in order to ensure that there is a reassurance given to the women employees. Because if the complaints are not addressed properly, then it's not just going to hurt or have an impact on the complainant here, it is going to send a chilling effect on all the other women employees in the company, right? Who might not dare to come forward now to file a complaint, who might simply bear this kind of a, let's say, nuisance or, let's say these kind of sexual misconduct in the office space, right? So these are certain very important points associated with the POSH issue that has arisen in case of TCS company. Now quickly solve this particular question and tell me the key answer correctly. The nodal ministry for all the Indian workplaces, including private, public companies, startups, NGOs, and educational institutions. Both the statements are true? Great. So first statement is correct, second statement is correct. And please understand this, in some of the books, some of the material, they'll simply say, this is applicable only if the company has 10 or more employees, 10 or more employees. Please remember this. If it is a 10 or more employees, there has to be a committee, internal committee which has to be set up. If it is 10 or more, internal committee. If the company has less than 10, if the company or the entity has less than 10 employees, then there will be a local complaints committee. Then there will be a local complaints committee. So if you have 10 or more, internal committee. If it is less than 10, local complaints committee, right? So irrespective of the size of the number of workers in the company, you will have to mandatorily come under the POSH provision. Done. Let's go forward now. Monsoon forecast. The IMO, Indian Meteorological Department, IMD by the way, right? Indian Meteorological Department has issued, right, an estimate regarding the upcoming monsoon. According to the announcement done by the IMD, we will have less than normal, rainfall or the monsoon in the upcoming monsoon season. So what are the important points associated with this? We have discussed the other aspects of it. What is the long period average? The long period average basically is considered from 1971 to 2020 rainfall, and the average is 87 centimeter. Right, and I've told you generally it is measured, that is the upcoming rainfall is measured as a percentage of the long period average, and based on that they will simply say whether it will be a normal monsoon, above normal monsoon, below normal monsoon, etc. Now the latest estimates, right, for the upcoming monsoon season is that we will have below normal monsoon. Okay, below normal monsoon. What are the implications of it? Point number one, like I've said earlier, the article also reiterates the same thing. It's not that whenever the prediction is done by the IMD, it is always correct. Underline the term, it is always correct. Meaning what? There have been certain instances where IMD has predicted that we will get normal monsoon, but we have received below normal monsoon. There have been instances where they have given a prediction of below normal and there has been a drought-like situation. So this is just a prediction. In fact, the first prediction, let's wait and see what is the natural outcome or what is the final outcome. Point number one. Point number two, let's assume the prediction is correct. Let's go ahead with the assumption that the prediction is correct, which means now the government of India has to undertake certain measures. Certain changes or certain policies have to be implemented. Meaning what? The government has to push for the kind of crops that will be sown in the coming cycle, which will not require lot of water, which are not water intensive crops. Because in case of India, a lot of times it is seen that because of the government policies, because of the farmer, let's say preferences, etc., the crops that are cultivated are water intensive crops. It could be paddy, it could be sugarcane, etc. And this automatically increases the demand for water. And in case of India, there is irrigation availability, but at the same point of time, majority of the land under farming still dependent on monsoon. It is still dependent on monsoon. So the problem is, if the same kind of cultivation is done and the monsoon is below normal, then the production will be hurt. If the production is hurt, supply will be hurt. And if the supply is hurt, automatically the market prices tend to rise up. And that will have a larger implication over food security issue in India. So one, promotion of other crops has to be done. Second very important point is also the fact that the government has to start working on having buffer crops. It already has buffer crops, by the way, buffer stocks, that is a technical term. Government should ensure that sufficient amount of buffer stocks are available. That's a second point. Third important point, other types of inputs. Other types of inputs. Already there is a concern that the fertilizer availability may not be sufficient for India in the upcoming season. That is a cropping season, by the way. If these kind of inputs, if these are not available in sufficient quantity, which generally add to the productivity of the crops, then in addition to the lower monsoon, the overall impact on the agriculture sector because of lesser availability of other inputs will be much greater. That will have a larger repercussion. So these are some of the recommendations that the government of India has to work on before the monsoon season begins. Done? Okay, so let me go forward. Next article, FCRA. Do not worry about, right, let's say the religious angle here. Focus on what is relevant for UPSC examination. For the last couple of months, there has been a discussion on FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. We have also discussed one of the proposals that the government of India had proposed in the form of an amendment bill. And the discussion associated with that has been postponed by the government. So, what are the important points from the article? Focus on the important points from the article for UPSC examination. First one, registration under FCRA is mandatory for non-government organizations, associations, etc., even individuals who want to receive foreign contribution. This is done by the government in order to ensure there is a tracking mechanism of who is receiving how much money, for what purpose they are receiving, and are they utilizing the funds for the right purposes or not. Because these kind of funds can be used to create instability in the economy. These can be used, right, to basically conduct certain kind of activities which are against national security, etc. So one, under the FCRA, registration is mandatory. Point number two, the registration that is provided by the government has a validity for 5 years. After 5 years, even before the expiry of the registration, you will have to apply for registration for another 5 years. The government will basically go through all of this, that is the Ministry of Home Affairs will review and basically allow you registration for the next 5 years. Now, for what purpose you can receive the funds? Under this, at what purpose the funds can be received? These can be received for 5 purposes: social, educational, religious, economic, and cultural programs. These are the reasons for which you can receive the funds from the foreign under the FCRA. And the latest data, please make a note of this. Since 2015, the FCRA registrations has been issued for 18,000 NGOs. Cancelled for 18,000 NGOs. And how many, FCRA registered NGOs are active right now? 14,538. These are certain factual data along with certain other important points that you need to take away from the article. Everybody is okay? Please don't worry about other things. Focus on only what is relevant for UPSC examination. Now, couple of more articles. President Xi meets Russian finance minister. Multiple leaders of other countries also have been meeting the Chinese president. What are the important points? I'll be discussing 2 articles. One is this and the second one is this, USA-Iran ceasefire article. Now, what are the important points here? Important point is, point number 1, because of the conflict that is happening in West Asia, there is certain impact on Chinese market. What do I mean by the impact here? When you talk about exports from Iran, especially the crude oil exports, one of the countries which is the major country importing this particular crude oil is China. 40% of total imports of crude oil that is done by China is exported from Iran. And for Iran, China is the largest buyer of its crude oil. So what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz with the blockade being imposed by the government of USA now? There is a concern regarding the trade that will happen between these 2 countries, that is exports and imports of crude oil. In addition to this, other countries such as Russia, very recently this has started approaching multiple countries, including India, by the way, including India. They are offering more of the fuels. They are offering more of their fuels to other markets. That is, for India, they have offered that any kind of a fuel requirement, we will supply it to you. The same has been guaranteed now to China as well, because China is worried about, let's say continuous supply. Now the Russia has guaranteed if they require the fuels, if there is any kind of a shortage in terms of energy, Russia is willing to continuously supply this kind of a energy requirement to meet the demands from China's side. These are the 2 important points. Third very important point, have a look at this. These are the different straits. I've used this particular map earlier as well. It may not be very clear right now. Please download the PPT and use it later. There are multiple straits like this. One of the very important straits where now the focus has shifted along with the Strait of Hormuz is this particular strait, that is Malacca Strait. This is one, right? Along with this Strait of Hormuz, that is always there in the newspaper. And the third is this particular, right, Red Sea, the strait that is present in the Red Sea, right? What is the reason why these two other types of, let's say, the waterways, right, or let's say sea routes are there in the discussion? Very recently, there is a defense cooperation agreement that has been signed between USA and Indonesia. Listen to me carefully. USA and Indonesia. According to this particular defense agreement, the access to this particular region, because Indonesia is present in this particular region, it is one of the three countries or one of the countries which controls the Strait of Malacca. It is there in the newspaper because USA and Indonesia have signed an agreement. According to this agreement, there will be more access given to the USA defense forces in this particular region. The concern is that USA might try to basically, right, conduct a lot of their activities in the Strait of Malacca, which is very important for China. This is very important for China for a simple reason. They export, import a lot of their goods which passes through this particular strait. And it is not just important for China, it is important for other Asian countries as well. So that is the reason the Strait of Malacca is there in the newspaper. Another, right, region which is there in the newspaper is the Red Sea. It is basically the Red Sea. Why it is there in the newspaper? Let me go on to the next article here. Iran has stated that ceasefire is at risk. So many news articles now. On one side, Iran is saying that the ceasefire is at risk. There is one more news which says the ceasefire between Iran and USA might be extended by 2 more weeks. There is one article which says the president of USA is very hopeful that the second round of negotiations for a permanent peace will happen between Iran as well as USA. All the things are there in the newspaper. But what is the importance of this article? Simple. Pakistan is mediating between both of these parties now, right? The representatives of Pakistan, right, are present in Iran to basically take the viewpoints of Iran and convey it to the USA, etc. But at the same point of time, the Iranian army, right, the head of the Iranian army has stated that if the Strait of Hormuz, the blockade that has been imposed by the president of USA on the Strait of Hormuz is not relaxed, then the ceasefire will come under the risk, and they might basically start imposing a blockade in the Red Sea as well. They might start imposing a blockade over the movement that is happening in the Red Sea as well. Now, how is that possible? Because it is possible because Iran has a military coalition. There is a resistance, axis of resistance. I'm pretty sure all of you heard of this. There is a, right, informal military coalition between Iran and other forces. It is called as an axis of resistance. Right? You have Houthis, you have Hezbollah and Hamas. Now, using these kind of, right, let's say the coalition, especially the Houthis, they want to basically impose restriction by attacking the vessels which are passing through Red Sea. That has happened in the past, which basically disrupted the global supply chain, disrupted the transportation of the vessels, and the same kind of, let's say, outcomes such as instability, volatility, crude oil prices going upwards, etc. All of that might again, right, increase because of these kind of, right, let's say, attacks. So these are the two very important points associated with these two articles. Now, final article for today. Okay, 7007 PK saying buffering. Is it the same for others as well? 7007 PK saying it is buffering. Is it the same for others as well? No? Thanks a lot. Let's go forward. Last article, by the way. The WPI inflation has risen to 38-month high of 3.8%. Okay, let's continue. Last article. The WPI has risen to 38-month high of 3.8%. Couple of days ago, there was an article couple of days ago, there was an article associated with CPI, which has shown that inflation, that is a retail inflation, has increased. Now there is one more article associated with the WPI, which also states that the WPI inflation has reached more than higher in the last 3 years, the highest level in the last 3 years. Okay. So 3.88%. Should you remember the number? Absolutely no. The reason is very simple. WPI has a basket of goods. WPI has a basket of goods. How many goods are there? 697 goods. No services in WPI, and these particular goods, a lot of them have experienced increase in their prices. For example, crude oil. Right? They have experienced a rise in the prices. So because of what is happening in West Asia, and the impact is visible now, because of what is happening in West Asia, the prices of lot of these products which are part of the WPI basket, CPI basket, they are experiencing a rise in the price. And as a result of this, the price of the overall basket has also started increasing. And that is visible in the rise in the WPI inflation. Done? Right? So these are certain important points. And the estimate is that this particular rise is going to be sustainable. That is, it is going to increase even in the coming months. Because right now there are no indications of what is happening in West Asia cooling down. There are no indications. Some days, let's say there are positive news or positive outcomes which are observed, the market will relax, and suddenly, within couple of days, exactly opposite will happen. Both of the parties are at loggerheads, as a result of which, again, the instability, volatility starts to increase. And that is visible in case of inflation rates, or that is basically not transmitted into the price levels, which is visible in case of WPI as well as CPI. Done? So these are important points. Last question for today. Please solve the question and tell me the answer very quickly. Last question for today. Consider the following statements regarding WPI. The base year for the calculation of WPI is 2011 and 12. It is published by MOSPI. The basket excludes services and has only goods. Ocean, Ocean Samu, MFG simply means manufacturing. It simply means manufacturing. So 7007 PK did not reply. I only replied to you. Okay. So let's start. The base year for the calculation of WPI is 2011 and 12. Yes, that is true, by the way. It is published by MOSPI. Incorrect. It is incorrect. CPI is published by MOSPI. This is published by Office of Economic Advisor. OEA, Office of Economic Advisor, who functions under DP, IIT, Department for Promotion of Industries and Internal Trade, which functions under Ministry of Commerce. Second statement, incorrect. The basket excludes services and has only goods. Yes. So first and third statements are correct. Right option for the question will be option B. Only two are correct. So that's it from my side in today's session. If you have liked the session, do not forget to hit the like button. If you have any kind of doubts, do let me know before I close the session today. Any doubts? Any doubts or confusion? No doubts? Okay, that's it from my side. Take care. Done. That's it from my side. Take care. See you next time. Have a great day.